Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more crazy stories every week. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's get into this one. I'm currently a 28-year-old female. I had a twin brother. Growing up, my twin brother and I experienced very different treatment from our parents. They genuinely seemed convinced that my brother was destined for greatness, while I was the so-called black sheep just because I was more interested in playing sports or making new friends than studying. They constantly compared us, which was demoralizing and bruised my self-esteem from a young age. As a child, I had to watch my brother have extravagant parties on our birthday with his friends while I was treated like an afterthought. He often had sleepovers with his friends while I was never even allowed to bring my friends back to our place. To be honest, I loathed every minute of my childhood. The only person in the family who seemed to care about me was my grandmother. When she visited, she always brought me my favorite chocolates and occasionally slipped a few dollars to me so I could treat myself later. As the years passed, this blatant favoritism for my twin brother gradually transformed into emotional abuse directed at me. My parents would openly mock my grades and belittle my hobbies. It felt like no matter how much I tried, I could never meet their expectations of being the perfect child. Although I was good at sports, they barred me from participating in extracurricular activities as they wanted me to concentrate only on studies, just like my brother. It was frustrating, and I felt helpless as a child. Later in my sophomore year, I got grounded yet again, and this time the crime was having Snapchat on my phone. I had done absolutely nothing wrong except, like all teenagers at my age, download the app to stay connected with my friends. However, according to my parents, this was a huge crime and a breach of their trust. They went crazy on me, throwing all my stuff around the room. They then took the doors off their hinges and told me that I would have no privacy as long as I lived under their roof. Watching my parents abuse me this way, my twin brother, instead of supporting me, made my life worse. The toxic environment created by our parents' unjust actions allowed him to exploit the situation to his advantage. He adopted a pattern of lying about me, falsely accusing me of things I never did, so he could get away with everything. If he stole something, he'd effortlessly shift the blame to me, and my parents, already inclined to believe the worst about me, readily accepted his lies. He would demean me in front of my friends at school and make fun of my appearance. Despite this, I had a wide circle of friends at school because I was approachable and open to making connections. My twin, however, struggled socially and began to resent that I could talk to people while he, as an introvert, felt awkward. This jealousy reached a boiling point during our 14th birthday party when no one showed up for him. I have no idea why his friends did that to him, but in stark contrast, my friends took me out for ice cream, and I had an overall wonderful day. This infuriated my brother further. To take revenge, he began spreading false rumors at school about me, portraying me as a spoiled brat. He falsely told everyone that I was allegedly physically abusing him at home since our parents loved him more. Unbeknownst to me, he took things to a disturbing level. To fabricate evidence, he would punch himself purposely, inflicting injuries like a black eye or a bruised shoulder. The next day, he would confidently walk into school displaying the self-inflicted injuries as proof of my supposed violence, making up stories whenever our parents questioned him about the injuries. He would lie, saying that it was due to innocent activities, like playing football with his friends. The lies about his alleged black eyes started to gain traction, and people began to believe his distorted version of events. It wasn't long before whispers started circulating, and even my friends began to look at me with suspicion. First, I noticed subtle changes. Friends who once chatted with me in the hallways suddenly became distant. Invitations to group hangouts became fewer and farther between. It was like a switch had been flipped, and people were hesitant to associate with the supposedly spoiled girl accused of violence. One day, I mustered the courage to ask my ex-best friend why things had changed between us. She opened up about how my twin brother had been spreading rumors about me. She revealed the detailed lies he had told everyone, accusing me of things I had never done. I was shocked to hear her words. The feeling was a mix of disbelief and betrayal, as if the ground beneath me had given way. My brother, someone I grew up with, was spreading lies about me, accusing me of things I would never even dream of doing. It was a betrayal that cut deep, leaving me with a knot in my stomach and a heavy heart. I confronted my brother the day after school, but he chose to ignore me. I begged him to stop lying about me, but he smirked and told me that I deserved to rot alone. I was at a loss for words, because his lies and behavior were starting to scare me. I wanted to talk to my parents, but I was afraid they would believe my brother over me. The isolation stung, especially because I had always been open to making friends. It felt like my brother's jealousy-fueled lies were tearing down the connections I had built over the years. Teachers, too, began to catch wind of the rumors. It was a surreal experience, as if I were living in a parallel reality where my true self was overshadowed by the malicious story spun by my own twin. The lies had grown beyond mere teenage gossip. They were now shaping how people truly perceived me. The nasty rumor quickly reached my principal's ears, and then my worst nightmare came true. The principal immediately called my brother and me into his office, along with our parents, so we could discuss these alleged rumors. I sat there, heart pounding, as the principal demanded the truth. I hoped my brother would finally come clean, but instead, he doubled down on the lies. He straight up told the principal that the rumors were true and painted me as a bully who went around beating him up when our parents weren't around. I couldn't believe it. Shock washed over me as my brother continued spinning this twisted story about how I was angry at him for getting more love from our parents. It was all a bunch of lies, but he stuck to his story like glue. My mom began to cry hearing my brother's story, holding on to him like he was some kind of hero. My dad tried to comfort my brother, telling him that it was brave for him to speak up and that he was going to make sure nothing would ever happen to him. After that day, I tried to defend myself, pleading with the principal that it was all made up. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of accusations, desperately trying to swim to the surface. But my brother kept at it, insisting that I was this angry, violent person taking out my frustrations on him every day. My mom's tears kept coming as she held on to my brother, giving me accusing looks. It was like fighting against a wall of belief in my brother's made-up story. The principal reprimanded me strongly, saying the school didn't tolerate bullying and that these were grounds to suspend me. I pleaded with him not to suspend me, but he shook his head, saying he couldn't just let it slide. I begged him, tears streaming down my face, trying to tell him that I hadn't done anything to my brother. The principal firmly told me that I would be suspended for 10 days, so that others would see this as an example to never bully anyone. It hit me hard, and I started crying even more, practically begging him to reconsider. My parents, angry and embarrassed by the whole situation, dragged me out of the principal's office. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to plead my case and make them understand, but they were having none of it. We left the school, my heart heavy with frustration and humiliation. When we got home, things took a drastic turn. My dad started packing up my stuff out of the blue. I was shocked, confused, and had no idea what was happening. My mom asked him what he was doing, but he just shouted that he couldn't let me live in the same house as my brother anymore. I was crying, practically on my knees, pleading with my brother to tell them the truth, but he stayed cold, unmoved by my emotions. My dad continued packing my things, and then threw the suitcase into our foyer. I clung to my dad's legs, still begging him not to throw me out. It was like a nightmare unfolding. He told me that a bully like me didn't deserve to live in his house, and that he would ask his mother, my grandmother, to come and pick me up if she wanted to do that. It felt like the world had crumbled beneath me. I stood there in shock, surrounded by my belongings scattered in the foyer, kicked out of my own home. Eventually, my grandmother did show up. She gently hugged me and told me that she believed in me no matter what. Then she gathered all my things and helped me place them in the car, helping me into the passenger seat. She made sure I had my seatbelt on before walking toward my parents' front door. She rang the doorbell, and when my dad opened the door, she started yelling at him for treating me this way with stern determination. She warned him that if he ever approached me or tried to contact me again, she wouldn't hesitate to involve the police or CPS, since what he had done to a child like me could potentially land him in jail. My mother, attempting to deflect blame, told her that it was my fault. However, my grandmother wasn't having it. She wasn't even listening to her. And that was the final straw for my grandmother and my family's relationship. It's been years since that painful chapter of my life. And now, at 28, things are finally looking up. I'm in a place where I feel truly at peace. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more toxic people trying to tear me down. My grandmother, the one person who believed in me when everyone else turned their back, has been my rock. I've built a life for myself, surrounded by supportive friends who appreciate me for who I truly am. I'm thriving in my career, and for the first time in my life, I'm finally living a life where I can be proud of who I've become. What do you guys think about this whole story? Or what would you do if you were her? Let me know in the comment section.